A talented pass rusher enters the transfer portal, and 3 talented defensive backs.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com. So we got 4 players to discuss today. The first is a pass rusher. Then we got 3 defensive backs. State of Florida is going to be a very big part of this podcast as well. So let's dive right in with the first player, because pass rushers never go out of style. First player is Jahkai Lang. He played at Missouri. He's from the state of Missouri. He's from Troy, and he's a kid that played a little bit, but didn't have a ton of snaps. Now, you can grade this however you want, because pass rushers rotate more, but as a reserve last year, he had 134 snaps, 2 sacks, 9 pressures. 9 pressures and 134 snaps, pretty good. But he's in the portal. Again, his name's Jahkai Lang. He's a young man that has the length you're looking for and the size. He's roughly 6'3", 250, give or take. And he's played in the SEC. So why did he get in? I don't know. But here are his grades, and you can kind of look at it from a perspective of what are we getting, because he's only played 1 year. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore. So here are the stats last year from Pro Football Focus on Jahkai Lang. 64.5 for his defensive grade overall. Run defense was a little subpar, 56.5. Pass rusher, 69.9. That's pretty darn good. Again, he had 9 pressures and 2 sacks per PFF and 134 snaps. This is a kid that's got 3 years of eligibility. He's not like the guaranteed home run. We know he's a dude guy because he was a backup playing for a good program. But he did have production in the Southeastern Conference. For an elite player, like yesterday, I talked about Xavier Hill on multiple podcasts. That is about as elite as it's going to get. Started out at LSU, ends up at Memphis. He's been a starter at guard, offensive tackle on both sides, right and left. That's rare. He's an all-conference guy a couple of years at Memphis. Those guys are rare to get in the portal. It's not quite as uncommon to see somebody with a little bit of experience, but the production, based on the limited reps for Jahkai Lang, I think that is something that needs to be noted, because there aren't that many players that still have all his physical abilities. At 250 pounds, he's not going to have to put on weight. He's going to be able to play the run and the pass. And again, he played in the SEC. So we'll see where he ends up. But that's a player that I think will get a lot of phone calls. Probably won't take very long for him to end up at another school. It's going to come down to NIL, how much he wants to be in a certain scheme. Does he want to play in a 4-3, 3-4, etc.? It's just the semantics. But Jahkai Lang's going to have quite a few opportunities. Next up is a kid that I know, and I was surprised that he got into the portal. Played at Sumner High School, played quarterback for most of his high school career. It's just south of Tampa, about 20 minutes. And Jahkai Lang is one of those kids, kind of came from a small town, not as many people knew about, like going to Missouri. Well, Greg Smith played just outside of Tampa, and everybody recruits that area, but nobody knew exactly where he was going to play at the next level in terms of position. His recruitment took a little longer to get going because of that. Really long, really athletic, but he played QB. Most people thought receiver, DB at the next level. He ends up at the University of Florida. He's an elite student, great kid. And I was surprised because he played in 4 games last year, didn't have a ton of snaps. He had 80, but he's already in the portal. They changed DB coaches at the University of Florida, so that might have something to do with it. And obviously there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not Billy's going to be there, but I have no idea. I haven't spoken to Greg in quite a while. Is it a scenario where he didn't like the DB coaches or the direction of the program, et cetera? I don't know, but this is one of those guys that I can just guarantee you from his personality, very low maintenance, very low maintenance. Elite student, yes, sir, no, sir. He just wants to play. So he only got 80 snaps at UF, but I will be surprised if he doesn't have a lot of opportunities. Wouldn't be surprised if Miami or Florida State was very interested, and I wouldn't be surprised if several out-of-state schools too, like Duke and Vanderbilt, schools like that want elite academic kids. I'm sure they would at least make a phone call. If they don't, that's on them. Notre Dame, Stanford, Rice, anybody like that could take a shot at him academically and they won't have any problems. But here are his defensive grades. Again, just 80 snaps last year, 64.9 overall defense, run defense 55.3, and then his passing defense 68.4. He's going to play safety. He's 6'3", about 210, 215. He could play, like if you wanted him to change positions, and maybe if you're a cover 3 team, I could see him playing corner. If you're going to play him at receiver, that's a possibility too. Very long and lanky athlete. And again, Greg Smith's great kid. Great kid. So I don't think he's a risk at all, despite how much he's played at the college level. And his high school film kind of speaks for itself. If you want to see an athlete, go look it up. It's at Sumner High School. When we come back, I got 2 more guys to discuss. Florida is in the house again in terms of where these kids are from and their defensive backs. You always need DBs if you're going to win big at the collegiate level because everybody throws it. So evaluating the right guys is important, and I think both these kids, I got a chance to see them, are going to be good players wherever they go. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. From three-pointers to assists to halftime scores, there's a million different ways you can do it. Prop bets are pretty easy for players, and you can do it for teams as well, how many shots they hit, etc. There's a lot of ways to go. And if you want, if you didn't catch the beginning of the game or get your bet in, you can do live betting as well, prop bets or anything else. So don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 bonus bets today. Tavoy Feagin is a kid that played at Carrollwood Day School in Tampa. I got to know him over these last few years of high school. Another kid, academically, is very inclined. Yes, sir, no, sir. His dad played at the University of Alabama, so the bloodlines are obviously good. He's a guy that played for an elite 7-on-7 program, and finally, just a good kid to be around. When he went to Clemson, it didn't shock me. Seemed like a pretty good fit, but he only played 9 snaps and in 2 games last year. 6 foot, 185 pounds, give or take, right in there. Cornerback. I'm not sure why he left Clemson, and I'm not sure what he's looking for, but he is a Florida kid. We'll see where he goes. This one is harder to evaluate for people that don't know him. I know Tavoy, but if you don't know somebody and just look at the numbers, I mean, he played 9 snaps according to Pro Football Focus. There's really no reason to put grades up. That's not enough to make a difference. And he only played 2 games. So he's a redshirt freshman. He's a young man that has athleticism and can run, and he had offers from a gazillion schools. He could have went pretty much wherever he wanted out of high school. Where does he go and why? This is one of the fascinating things about the portal, because this kid has the opportunity to call several DB coaches that he knows, his trainers, etc., that have connections. But where does a kid go after being at Clemson? That's a very structured program, maybe the most structured in the P4. Maybe the most that we've had in several years in basketball, football, or anything else. Like, Dabo runs a very tight ship, and Tavoy was all about it. I mean, I talked to him about it numerous times. So when I saw his name headed to the portal, I was very, very surprised. But at the same time, if he didn't think there was a path to playing time or whatever, it is what it is. So my guess is there was a mutual parting of the ways because he wasn't going to be a starter this year, something to that effect. I don't know. But from a physical standpoint, he could play nickel or he could play corner. I don't think it makes any difference. I don't think he's a safety, but he can play it because his mentality is to play head up, play cover 1, cover 4, which is more or less cover 1 in its own right, and be aggressive, attacking the ball. Great kid. You won't have any problems with him off the field. And he's another guy that, quite honestly, is used to top competition. So just going up against the Clemson receivers in practice probably helped him a lot. They got a lot of speed. So I don't think he'll be in the portal long, and he may even know where he's going. But Tavoy Feagin is a player that I think could be a very high-level P4 player. Where he goes, we'll find out. But Tavoy Feagin is one that we're probably going to hear about making a decision sooner rather than later. Finally, Marchius Brown. If I remember right, he played at Pahokee, transferred into IMG. He played just 4 games last year at Purdue. He was there the last couple of years. Originally went to Ole Miss. But again, he's an IMG Academy kid, so he knows what it looks like in terms of training before he ever made it to the Power 4 level. And he's also a kid that's seen SEC football and Big Ten football. Now, Purdue was just absolutely terrible last year, but he only played in 4 games, then redshirted. He's going to be a grad student. He had 231 snaps in just 4 games. So they obviously relied on him. That's over 50 snaps a game. Defensive grade overall was 71. Run defense was a little subpar, 55.9. Tackling, 61.7. Then his coverage was 73.6. For those that don't know, Purdue was predominantly a man defense. Here we come, super aggressive. They didn't have the personnel to run what they needed, especially up front in terms of depth, getting after it. If you're in cover one a lot and your pass rush is just so-so or even subpar, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you got Deion Sanders across the board. Guys are going to get open eventually. So I didn't really like their scheme, and I'm not surprised that he redshirted and got out of there. That staff got fired. But he's a grad student again, and he's played in the SEC, and he's played in the Big Ten. Marchius Brown probably isn't going to have a difficult time finding a home. He may already know where he's going. Some of these kids know that before they officially enter, which, by the way, is the 16th. We're just a little bit less than a week away from that. But I do believe that you're going to see Marchius Brown end up with a P4 school. I don't know if he'll end up as a nickel or as a corner. But again, he was pretty decent in coverage last year. His coverage grade was 73.6. So that's going to be appealing to somebody. Maybe it's Nebraska. Maybe it's Mississippi State. I have no idea. But he's from the South. My guess is he heads back south for his last year. He'll be a grad student. So we'll see where he ends up. But that's another interesting player. Before the day is up, I will be very surprised because we're less than a week again, just as a note, from the portal officially opening up. I might have another update on more portal players, and it's possible that I have another update on commitments. We're to that point where all these spring showcases and practices where all the recruits come in last weekend and this weekend. There's going to be a lot of recruiting news too over the next week to 2 weeks. It'll be random. It'll be a big deal. Rodney Dunham makes his announcement today at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's a big-time recruit. On3 has him as the number 7 player in the nation. He makes his announcement. We'll see where he goes. There's going to be a lot more here on the Portal Podcast pretty much every day. Make sure you lock in, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. And if you're on something like Spotify or Apple, leave us a 5-star review. Truly appreciate it. We'll see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.